Clara had been a resident of the Greenhaven Sanctuary for 13 years. Rescued from a biomedical research facility, she arrived thin and withdrawn, her dark eyes scanning her new surroundings with caution. The sanctuary staff noted her reserved nature early on. She avoided conflict, rarely engaged in the playful antics of the younger chimpanzees, and preferred solitude over the chatter of the group. Medical examinations conducted shortly after her arrival revealed significant scar tissue in her reproductive system and hormonal imbalances that pointed to one conclusion: Clara was infertile. The veterinarians determined that natural reproduction was highly unlikely, a fact reinforced by years of observation. Breeding was never a consideration for her. The staff focused instead on ensuring her comfort, providing her with a safe space to live out her days. Clara, now in her late 20s, spent her time basking in the sunlight that filtered through the enclosure's canopy or resting on high platforms, her graying fur a sign of her advancing age. The sanctuary had grown accustomed to her quiet presence, believing her life would remain one of peaceful survival, untouched by the possibility of new beginnings. The Greenhaven Sanctuary operated with a steady rhythm. Each morning, staff arrived before dawn to check the enclosures, refill water stations, and review overnight camera footage. The cameras, installed to monitor the chimpanzee's behavior, captured every movement in the sprawling habitat. On this particular morning, the air was cool, and the sanctuary was quiet except for the hum of equipment in the observation room. A young handler named Sarah sat at the monitor, scrolling through the footage as part of her routine. Clara's enclosure appeared on the screen, and Sarah paused, her eyes narrowing. The camera showed Clara in an unusual position, crouched low on the ground, her body hunched protectively. Her breathing was rapid, her arms curled tightly around something small. Sarah leaned closer, unsure of what she was seeing. The footage was grainy, but the shape in Clara's arms moved slightly, a tiny limb stretching out. Sarah's pulse quickened. She replayed the clip, zooming in, but the image remained unclear. She called for the head veterinarian, her voice steady but urgent, and within minutes, the observation room began to fill with staff. The team gathered at the observation panel overlooking Clara's enclosure. The morning light cast long shadows across the habitat, illuminating Clara's form. She remained in the same spot, her body shielding the small shape beneath her. The head veterinarian, Dr. Ellis, adjusted his glasses and peered through the glass. Clara shifted slightly, and the staff saw it clearly. A newborn chimpanzee, its tiny body pressed against her chest, its eyes barely open. A gasp rippled through the group. Clara, deemed infertile for over a decade, was cradling an infant. The room buzzed with disbelief. Dr. Ellis scanned his mental records, recalling every test, every report that had confirmed Clara's condition. The team exchanged glances, their minds racing to make sense of the impossible. Then Clara moved again, revealing a second infant, smaller and frailer, nestled under her other arm. The staff froze, their breaths catching. Twins. The sanctuary had never recorded a twin birth, and Clara, of all chimpanzees, had defied every expectation. The weight of the moment settled over them, heavy and surreal. The observation room at Greenhaven Sanctuary erupted into a flurry of activity. The initial shock of seeing Clara with not one, but two infants gave way to a pressing need for action. Dr. Ellis, the head veterinarian, took charge, his voice calm but firm as he issued instructions. The team needed to confirm the health of the newborns and ensure Clara was stable, all without disturbing her. The staff moved quickly, gathering medical supplies, portable monitoring equipment, and a tablet to review the camera footage in detail. Sarah, still shaken from her discovery, pulled up the overnight recordings, scrubbing through hours of footage to pinpoint when the births occurred. The cameras had captured Clara's labor in the early hours, her body tucked into a corner of the enclosure, away from the other chimpanzees. The process had been swift, silent, and solitary, a stark contrast to the noisy births the sanctuary had witnessed in the past. Clara's experience as a mother was non-existent, yet she had navigated the ordeal with an instinct that left the team in awe. Dr. Ellis dispatched a small group to the enclosure's perimeter to observe Clara through binoculars, noting her behavior. She remained protective, her arms encircling the infants, her eyes scanning the surroundings for threats. The team debated whether to intervene. The infants appeared small, especially the second, and premature births carried risks. Yet Clara's demeanor suggested she was in control, her movements deliberate as she adjusted the newborn's positions. The staff decided to hold off on direct contact, opting instead to monitor her closely through the cameras and observation panel. The sanctuary's protocol for unexpected births was clear, but nothing had prepared them for a case this extraordinary. As the morning progressed, the team's disbelief lingered, tempered by a growing sense of urgency to understand how this had happened and what it meant for Clara and her unexpected offspring. By mid-morning, the sanctuary's research lab became the epicenter of the team's efforts to unravel the mystery of Clara's twins. Dr. Ellis and his colleagues pored over Clara's medical records, which spanned her 13 years at Greenhaven. The files were meticulous, detailing every examination, blood test, and ultrasound. The scar tissue in her reproductive system, likely a result of her time in the biomedical facility, had been documented repeatedly. Hormonal assays conducted over the years showed levels inconsistent with ovulation, and her lack of mating behavior had further solidified the diagnosis of infertility. The team cross-referenced these records with recent observations, searching for any overlooked detail. Had there been a misdiagnosis, a change in her condition? The sanctuary's database offered no clues. Clara had not shown signs of pregnancy, no weight gain, no nesting behavior, no physical changes that the staff had noticed. The team expanded their search, pulling records of the male chimpanzees in the enclosure. Clara rarely interacted with the males, but mating could have occurred unnoticed. The sanctuary's cameras, though comprehensive, had blind spots, and the dense foliage in the habitat provided cover. Genetic testing would eventually confirm paternity, but results would take days. Dr. Ellis ordered blood samples to be prepared for Clara and the infants, though collecting them without stressing her would be a challenge. The team also reviewed environmental factors. The sanctuary had introduced no new medications or dietary changes that could account for a sudden shift in Clara's reproductive capacity. The lab buzzed with theories, each more improbable than the last. Some speculated about a rare hormonal surge, others about an undocumented recovery from her earlier trauma. The smaller infant's frailty raised concerns about prematurity, prompting Dr. Ellis to consult with a primate specialist via video call. The specialist, equally baffled, suggested that Clara's age and condition made the twin birth a statistical anomaly, possibly a one-in-a-million event. As the day wore on, the staff's questions multiplied, but answers remained elusive. Clara, oblivious to the frenzy, continued to care for her infants, her focus unwavering. The sanctuary, built on routine and predictability, now grappled with a reality that defied everything they had known about their quiet matriarch. The Greenhaven Sanctuary shifted its operations to accommodate Clara and her newborns. By the afternoon of the discovery, the staff had restructured their schedules to ensure round-the-clock monitoring. Clara's enclosure was designated a priority zone, with cameras adjusted to capture every angle of her movements. The team installed additional sensors to track temperature and humidity, creating optimal conditions for the infants. The other chimpanzees in the habitat, curious about the new arrivals, began to approach Clara's corner, their vocalizations echoing through the enclosure. To prevent stress, the staff limited the group's access to her area, using temporary barriers to create a secluded space. Clara appeared unfazed by the changes, her attention fixed on her twins. The larger infant nursed frequently, its grip strong as it clung to her fur. The smaller one, however, struggled, its movements sluggish and its breathing uneven. Dr. Ellis and the veterinary team prepared a contingency plan, ready to intervene if the weaker infant's condition deteriorated. They assembled a kit with formula, sterile syringes, and warming pads, though they hoped Clara's care would suffice. The staff observed her closely, noting her meticulous grooming and the way she cradled both infants simultaneously, a feat that required dexterity and patience. Her behavior was remarkable for a first-time mother, especially one of her age and history. The sanctuary's younger chimpanzees, usually boisterous, seemed to sense the gravity of the situation, keeping their distance. The staff also faced logistical challenges. The sanctuary's budget, already stretched, needed reallocation to cover the costs of additional medical supplies and genetic testing. Dr. Ellis submitted a request to the sanctuary's board for emergency funds, emphasizing the significance of Clara's case. The team's morale, however, was high. The discovery had injected a sense of purpose into their work, reminding them why they had chosen this path. As evening fell, the observation room remained active, with staff taking shifts to watch the monitors. Clara, bathed in the soft glow of the enclosure's lights, rocked her infants gently, her presence a quiet anchor amidst the sanctuary's whirlwind of activity. The team, though exhausted, felt a collective resolve to protect this fragile new family, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary. As the first day transitioned into night, the sanctuary's research efforts intensified. Dr. Ellis and his team continued their search for an explanation, their focus shifting from immediate care to the broader implications of Clara's twins. The lab was cluttered with open files, laptops displaying data, and handwritten notes scrawled on whiteboards. The team revisited Clara's medical history with renewed scrutiny, examining every detail for a missed clue. Her time at the biomedical facility, though poorly documented, was a focal point. The staff knew she had been subjected to experimental procedures, but the specifics were vague, buried in redacted reports. Could those interventions have caused a delayed effect, altering her reproductive capacity years later? The hypothesis was speculative, but the team pursued it, contacting former colleagues who had worked with similar cases. They also considered natural factors. Chimpanzees, like humans, occasionally defied medical predictions, but twin births were rare, and Clara's age, nearing the upper limit for reproduction, made the event even more improbable. The smaller infant's condition added urgency to their work. Its frail appearance suggested prematurity, yet Clara's lack of visible pregnancy signs complicated the timeline. The team hypothesized that her pregnancy had been unusually short or subtle, masked by her reserved behavior and the sanctuary's focus on other chimpanzees. To gather more data, they analyzed the camera footage frame by frame, noting Clara's movements in the weeks prior. Subtle changes emerged. She had eaten less, rested more, and spent increasing time in secluded areas. These behaviors, unremarkable at the time, now took on new meaning. The staff also prepared for external scrutiny. Clara's story, once shared, would attract attention from scientists, media, and animal welfare advocates. Dr. Ellis drafted a preliminary report, careful to avoid sensationalism, while Sarah compiled a timeline of the discovery for the sanctuary's records. The team knew that genetic tests, still days away, would provide critical insights, but until then, they relied on observation and instinct. Clara, unaware of the questions swirling around her, continued to nurture her infants, her strength a contrast to the uncertainty that gripped the sanctuary. The staff, bound by a shared sense of wonder and responsibility, pressed on, determined to safeguard her legacy while grappling with a mystery that challenged their understanding of life itself. The second day at Green Haven Sanctuary brought a mix of cautious optimism and mounting challenges. Clara's twins remained the focal point, their survival hinging on her care and the staff's vigilance. The larger infant, now visibly stronger, nursed with vigor and clung tightly to Clara's chest, its dark eyes darting curiously. The smaller infant, however, continued to struggle. Its breathing was shallow, and its attempts to nurse were weak, often interrupted by long periods of stillness. Dr. Ellis and the veterinary team monitored its condition through high-resolution camera feeds, debating the risks of intervention. Separating the infant from Clara could cause her distress, potentially disrupting her bond with both offspring, but leaving it unattended risked its life. After hours of discussion, they opted for a compromise, a non-invasive approach to supplement the infant's nutrition. Using a long pole fitted with a syringe, a handler delivered small amounts of formula near Clara, allowing her to accept it on her terms. Clara, initially wary, eventually lapped up the liquid, her instincts guiding her to share it with the weaker infant. The staff watched in relief as the tiny chimpanzee swallowed, its frail body responding to the nourishment. Beyond the enclosure, the sanctuary buzzed with preparations for the twins' long-term care. The team redesigned a section of the habitat to create a permanent nursery area, equipped with soft bedding and climbing structures suited for young chimpanzees. They also coordinated with a primate nutritionist to develop a diet plan for Clara, ensuring she had the energy to sustain her maternal duties. The other chimpanzees, still curious, grew bolder, approaching the barriers around Clara's space. The staff introduced distractions, new toys and food puzzles to keep the group occupied, minimizing disruptions. Meanwhile, the research team made progress. Preliminary blood work from Clara, collected during a routine check months earlier, showed a slight uptick in certain hormones, a detail overlooked at the time. While not conclusive, it suggested her body had undergone subtle changes before the pregnancy. The genetic tests, now in processing, promised further clarity, but the lab's equipment strained under the volume of samples. Dr. Ellis reached out to a nearby university, securing access to advanced sequencing tools. The sanctuary's board approved the emergency funding, easing financial pressures, but the staff felt the weight of external expectations. News of Clara's twins had begun to leak, with local reporters requesting statements. Dr. Ellis instructed the team to remain focused, prioritizing Clara's well-being over public curiosity. As night fell, the sanctuary settled into a tense rhythm, the staff's dedication matched only by Clara's quiet resolve to protect her fragile family. Weeks passed, and Clara's twins became a symbol of resilience at Greenhaven Sanctuary. The larger infant, named Kofi, thrived under Clara's care, his playful movements a stark contrast to his early days. The smaller infant, named Lila, defied her frail beginnings, gaining strength with each passing day. The supplemental feedings, combined with Clara's attentive nurturing, had stabilized her condition, and her once sluggish limbs now grasped with purpose. Clara, though visibly tired, maintained her role as a steadfast mother, her bond with the twins unbreakable. The sanctuary adapted fully to their presence, with the nursery area now a permanent fixture. The other chimpanzees, once curious, accepted the twins as part of the group, their interactions marked by gentle curiosity rather than disruption. The research team, after exhaustive analysis, pieced together a partial explanation for the miracle. Genetic tests confirmed that a male chimpanzee introduced to the enclosure 2 years prior was the father. Clara's pregnancy, likely brief and concealed by her reserved behavior, had gone unnoticed. The hormonal shift detected in her blood work hinted at a rare recovery, possibly triggered by improved nutrition and the sanctuary's low-stress environment. Her time in the biomedical facility, while damaging, had not entirely erased her capacity for life. The twin birth, however, remained an anomaly, a testament to nature's unpredictability. The sanctuary shared Clara's story with the scientific community, publishing a restrained report that emphasized her resilience over sensationalism. The public response was overwhelming, with donations pouring in to support the twins' care. Dr. Ellis and the staff used the funds to expand the sanctuary's medical facilities, ensuring future generations of chimpanzees would benefit. Clara, unaware of her fame, continued her routine, grooming Kofi and Lila under the enclosure's canopy. Her presence, once defined by quiet survival, now embodied renewal. The staff, forever changed by the experience, saw in her a reminder that life, even in its most unexpected forms, could reshape the boundaries of possibility. Greenhaven Sanctuary, built on the promise of refuge, had become a place where hope, carried in the arms of an aging chimpanzee, found a new beginning.